All right. So our first panel is going strong, right? And talking about market share, critical for the future, and how we use our strengths really to push forward in member well-being. And we have probably one of the best moderators ever, Mr. Frank Diekman's up here, cooperator-in-chief at cutoday.info. He keeps us informed, he's funny, and he also has been with us at the Underground since the beginning. So thank you, Frank, as our moderator. Next, we have Bill Cheney, the CEO of School's First Federal Credit Union, the legend of the industry, no doubt, and a recent announcement of the Herb Wagner, a lifetime achievement. Join us now. We also have Erin Mendez, the CEO of Patelco. If anyone knows member well-being, it's Erin, and she's integrating it into her culture and her organization. And then we have Todd Clark, who is just right in front, okay, who's now disappeared. Todd Clark is the CEO of Co-op, and he's bringing his experience and vision and how we can make some strides moving forward. So let's welcome our panel.
There we go. Good morning, everyone. I feel like I should be welcoming you to the Mitchell Stankovic version of the NFL pregame show. I also would be remiss, because I've noted this before, how consistent, and I have to applaud Mitchell Stankovic for repeatedly holding a meeting themed underground on top of buildings. We have a little bit less time today than we did yesterday for some of the sessions, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time speaking, and I appreciate you not applauding that. And instead, I want to really get the thoughts of our panel. I wanted just to touch on just a very quick thing. It's such a broad topic, both market share and pivoting. I will tell you that last night I checked, I used the See You Today search engine to just search the word market share. That appeared more than 700 times in the last 5 years. And I searched the word pivot in our database, and that appeared in more than 325 stories. So both are pretty active topics within credit unions. And as I said, they're both pretty broad as well. I also, before I begin, want to put our panel at ease and let them know I've already written the story, and this is the best panel. So let me ask, I'll start with you, Bill, if I could. What does this term, pivoting and market share mean to you?
Well, thank you, Frank. Market share is interesting. We spend a lot of time at our credit union focusing on how we can better serve our 1.2 million members, most of them school employees. And we don't spend a lot of time talking about market share or growth. In fact, we just had a management team meeting, I guess it's last week now since it's Sunday morning, and talked specifically about the fact that people ask me all the time about our growth strategy. Growth and market share kind of go along together. We don't have a growth strategy. Growth is an outcome for us. We have growth projections because you have to do that to do capital planning and budgeting. But we don't spend a lot of time focusing on market share. Now, when I arrived at the credit union 8 years ago, somebody told me that if you are a school employee in Orange County, California, which is where we started, there's a 70% chance that you're a member of Schools First already. But that's pretty strong market share, 70%. That doesn't count their family members. That's just school employees. Erin may know more about market share at Schools First than I do, especially 8 years ago. But it's just an outcome. So we provide world-class personal service to our members. We focus on their financial well-being, which I think is absolutely critical, and we can talk some more about that. And the growth's going to happen. Right? They're going to refer their coworkers, they're going to refer their family members. Membership drives a lot of the success in our organization. Growing membership drives almost everything in our organization. And that membership grows because of the service that we provide and the referrals we get from our members.
Same question for you, Erin. How do you view this large issue of market share?
So I guess the first word I would use is ditto. And then I'll add to it. So I will tell you, I have board of directors who believe in market share. What I believe in is mission share or fair share. We are not a size of an organization, any of us here, that can overwhelm market share in the classical sense. And so to me is our mission is to build our members' financial health and well-being. That needs to be our niche. It needs to be 100% within the organization and consume our focus. And when we do those things right, that's what I mean. Then we get mission share, we get our fair share, and then what you have is our membership growth, to give you an example, and I think it's only because of our focus on financial health, for the last 3 years has been over 8%. Now you compare that to the industry average, and it's kind of good, okay? But it's good because the majority of our membership growth is membership referrals because we help them. And so the team's ability to reach and make a difference in each member's life that they're connecting with, those are the moments of mission share. And if you don't have membership growth in a thriving, sustainable way, you're going to have problems in the future. So to us, our niche of financial health, what we're doing to make a difference, it's much more about that than it is about classic market share to us.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question before I get to Todd? How do you know you're making a difference?
Well, we know from the surveys we give members and what they tell us. We know from Yelp reviews. We know from conversations. So there's a lot of outreach methodologies that you use, and you get direct feedback from members. One of the things, and Schools First does this too, we both use the Gallup Financial Wellbeing Survey as opposed to an NPS survey. And the information you get from the members on those surveys is all about their financial well-being. So it's their emotional connection to money. But the information you get, the verbatims you get, sometimes will crush you. I mean, really, people are struggling. And we have certified team members who know how to do financial planning and can work directly. And anytime we get those comments, we give them to our 50-plus team members who call the members and say, okay, you told us this. Now let's sit down and figure out how we can move you forward. So those are methods to how you know you're making a difference.
Well, thank you. Todd, I'll ask you, you're a large CUSO, obviously, so you come at this market share issue from a different perspective than credit unions, but Co-op also does a lot of research in this area. How do you view the issue of market share?
Well, let me give you a couple of things. One, we serve credit unions. We actually have, I think it's 3 bank customers, but every time it's been when a credit union person has left and gone to work for a bank and then asked us if we would serve that bank, and so we've said yes. So we focus almost exclusively on the credit union market, and so I view our job is helping you guys deliver your message, right? And so as you think about market share, Erin and I talked about this at length last night, and I think that she hit it right on the head. This is about engaging in everyday moments in your members' lives. Credit unions are fantastic at life stages, right? Car loans, student loans, home loans. But when they pull that card out of their wallet or they double click on that iPhone to pay, is it your card that comes up? Are they thinking about you every day? And so, market share, mind share, wallet share, I think those all are a mix that you have to think about. I don't know any credit union that looks and says, I control 50, 60, 70% of the market I'm in. And of course, I'm sure that there are, but I think most of you are hitting it right, which is how am I helping that person? How am I driving them forward? You don't do it just for the income. I view my job and Co-op's job is to give you the tools to allow you to do it. Because the companies like Chime and Acorn and Robinhood, they're coming out trying to carve a little piece of your wallet share or your mind share of your member off at a time. And they're doing it through really great member experience. That is an expensive proposition. I mean, it's a really expensive proposition. And I think, credit unions, have never, ever lost money without being conserved. I mean, that just doesn't happen very often, right? I mean, it's a no-no in the credit union space to think about a year or 2 or 3 years of losing money. Your competitors, Chime, Acorn, Robinhood, they don't make money. They're growing market share. All they care about is market share. All they care about is taking that share from you. And so you're fighting a battle against them, and they're playing by different rules because they can go 10, 12, 14 years and never turn a profit to take all that from you. And then one day they'll start introducing all the products that you offer, right? Chime entered as a debit card only. Now what are they doing? They're taking deposits. Now what are they doing? They're just giving loans. Well, that looks a lot like you guys, and they're doing it with great member experience or customer experience in their words. Even SoFi is stealing your terminology and calling their people members. Well, they're not members of anything, right? They're just members of a for-profit company that is trying to make money off of them. We actually believe and care about our members. I think Co-op's job in this whole thing, and you talk about a pivot, we pivoted away from a reseller of somebody else's technology to technology that is owned by credit unions and for credit unions and will never leave credit unions. And so that I think is what our job and how I think about market share.
Thank you. I want a very quick digression, only follow up a point that Todd made. I have an opportunity every year to speak to a group of directors, a big credit union directors conference. And the last time I spoke to them prior to speaking, we asked each attendee coming, each board member who was coming to that conference to sign up for a fintech, to ask them to sign up for a Chime or an Acorn or someone. And then we had 10 of them come up on stage and talk about their experiences. I only share this because, first, their experiences were fascinating, and second, because this point came up earlier before we began about boards and fintech. It's a great requirement for boards. At some boards require everyone to sign up for one and then share their experience, because otherwise they're not going to. But let me get back to a point that Todd raised. I want to ask Bill and Aaron, how much attention do you pay to a wallet share?
Wallet share, yes. Not so much market share, but wallet share, absolutely. Because, I mean, it's one thing to be a member with a $5 share account, and we'll let members do that if that's what they want to do. A lot of credit unions don't, and I'm not saying that's wrong. But we want the relationship, right? We want our cards to be top of wallet. And we know that I'm just going to assume, probably easiest to assume, almost all of our members have more than one card. I do. I hate to admit that here among my friends, but I do.
You're lucky I'm not writing about this one.
Thank you, Frank. But in fact, when we survey our members, it's interesting. It's been a couple of years now since I've seen the results, but only 8% of our members tell us that they have a relationship with another credit union, any credit union, which is shocking to me. And that hasn't changed in 8 years that I've been there. 30% of our members say they have a relationship with Chase. 32% of our members say they have a relationship with Wells Fargo. God bless them. Yeah, exactly. 30% of our members say they have a relationship with Citibank. Most of that has to be credit cards. So we do have very strong usage of both our credit products and our debit card, but we're not always top of wallet, and we work very hard with our partners to make sure that we do what we can to make that happen. Much more important than market share to us is wallet share.
In quick follow-up, Bill, I assume that most of those bank credit cards are people with travel benefits.
Probably.
And you mentioned card wanting to be top of wallet. How does Schools First do that?
We're fortunate. Well, we do it through rewards on our credit products, and I think I guess I'm not even sure, honestly, Frank, what the incentive is on the debit side. Except out of 1.2 million members, we have 1 million debit cards, which, if we talk to our partners, our usage is very high. But there's not a rewards. We don't have rewards on our debit card. Thank you, Senator Durbin. You know, the Durbin Amendment last year on the debit side cost us, or this year, will be about $30 million in revenue. It's hard to share the revenue when you don't receive it.
Aaron, same question for you. Do you pay attention to wallet share?
We pay attention to wallet share and participation in all products and services. On the wallet share side, we actively work with the credit bureaus that if our members happen to be inquiring, we get that information and we go out instantly to them. And then talk about what we can do to them, how we do it. So we use some proactive approaches to make sure that if it's our members, they're redirected to our products and our card products. We also have one of our card products is a balance product that we call our Pure Card. And we call it a Pure Card, doesn't have rewards or anything, but it has a very, very low interest rate. It's an under market, intentional low risk interest rate that we believe it's one of our financial health products. So if you're gonna carry a balance and you're gonna have some revolving, at least this will give you a lower interest rate so that you could get out of debt at some point. And that's probably, unfortunately, one of our most active card products in usage and in payments and repayments and in how that's positioned. And certainly we have reward cards. But you know, reward cards are very interesting because it is very difficult to compete with Capital One and Chase Rewards. They have money that you don't have. So what you have to do is really understand your membership and what's the rewards that will appeal to them. Because if you are playing in a mass market, I think you're going to lose because you can't. So understand the behaviors and the needs of your members and realign your points and your rewards to what your members are needing and wanting. And I think those are the ways you get your cards richer, is when you really hone in on your members and how you can make a difference for them.
Thank you. Todd, I'll ask you, what has been Co-op's experience and what is most effective in working with credit unions at building wallet share in cards, for instance?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the actual member experience, right? Part of the reason Chime is so successful and those other guys are so successful, and I'm a little like you, Frank, at our CEO conference this summer. I challenged the audience, open up your app store and search debit card, and then start scrolling down and see how many pages you go through before the first credit union pops up, right? It's hundreds you might get to Navy eventually, like down at 88 or something like that, different choices before you get there. If you've never applied for an Apple Card, just do it to see what the experience is like. Now, fair warning, it'll affect your credit score, but only for a short period of time. But you need to see how easy it can be to get credit. And I always say, if your members are looking for liquidity, they're going to find it. You need to be there and be prepared to provide it. Otherwise, they're going to go get it from a predatory lender of some sort, whether it be Payday or whether it be Credit One or whoever it is out there with a 24% credit card that's going to tie them up forever. So I think member experience and the way I think about it is apply, quick decision, push the card right into the wallet on the phone, deliver a piece of plastic in the next 2 or 3 days, but have that card available for use right then. When the card loads to their wallet, ask them, would you like this to be your primary card in your Apple Wallet or in your Android wallet? Would you like this to be the primary card in your Prime account, in your Netflix account? All those things happen right at the point of interaction, and those are the kind of tools that we're trying to provide for you guys to make it an easy pathway for you to stay top of wallet and get that wallet share. And so as I think about my job in this world, it's to provide those tools so the credit unions do it. Every credit union in the room utilizes this differently. Everyone utilizes it differently. Some people are way out in front of this, and some people are like, well, I don't have anybody asking for it. And I think my guess is that's because you're not asking them if they want it. It's nice to hear, Bill, that you know exactly where they are, right? And like you, I carry 17 cards because I like to understand what's going on in the marketplace.
The ultimate in juggling.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do. It's a weird dynamic. I do 2 or 3 transactions a month on about 10 or 12 different cards just to see the offers that I get and how it works, because I'm trying to build the best I can for you guys, and so I think I have to understand what's happening out there.
Thank you, Ted. To Todd's point, by the way, I have to echo what 2 of the speakers said yesterday about their kids. I have a 22-year-old daughter who I mentioned something about having a debit card, and she looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, well, how do you transact business? And she said, well, I just use Cash App. It's so easy, Dad. And I started trying to explain things to her about how things should work. I'm just mentioning that to you because my kids have never in their lives been on a trip that didn't involve a credit union convention. And if they aren't involved with credit unions, yeah, and maybe that's the reason. Someone said that. Maybe that's the reason. I was
Same here, right? Our oldest son, when we were moving money into his account in college, it was quickly leaving the account. And Susan was like, what do you think's going on? And I said, well, he's probably moving it to Venmo. And that's exactly what he was doing. He would get the deposit, he would move it to Venmo the very next day, and that's how he interacted with his friends. And I hate to spoil it, but Sam's about to get up here probably and tell you that for the first time ever, Venmo PayPal is now the most trusted brand in financial technology. That includes you guys, right? And that's a powerful move for something that was just meant to pay for like garage sale stuff on eBay one time, right?
I was remiss earlier by not mentioning, if anyone has a question, please feel free to raise your hand at any time. Well, I'm happy to interrupt, and we'll take the questions. One thing I did want to ask our panel before time's up is another theme in this presentation has to do with pivoting. You all lead large organizations. Where have you had to pivot, and how do you deal with pushback to that pivot? Anybody wish to start? Bill?
Yeah, I don't know per se that I would call it pivoting. We certainly had to change with the pandemic. We all did. And it's been interesting in an organization of 2,700 employees, 1,000 of whom work in our branches. And so the 1,000 people who work in our 70 branches never had a choice. Well, they had a choice, I suppose. But if to work at the credit union, their work was in our branches face to face. And I've worked very hard to continue to acknowledge that throughout this process, because many of the other 1,700 had some choices, and we had some flexibility in terms of work location, keeping them safe, providing the technology that they needed to be remote. But those other people didn't, and they did a fantastic job. And I must say, I continue to be amazed by the positive attitude of the people who didn't have the choice. So now, I'm sure we're all, regardless of you're a CUSO or a credit union, still dealing with how do we do this going forward in terms of work location. And we have a work location philosophy, but that doesn't mean that it's easy. And there's always going to be, I guess now, this sort of push and pull between in the office or in the branches or working from home. I'm not, we say it's based on your position first, and then based on what you want to do. Some people want to be in the office. I'm one of those. Your aptitude, I'm just not a work from home person. I can work remotely when I'm on the road. We know how that works, Frank. But I don't know. It's been very interesting, and it's going to continue to be. It is interesting to me. We have had some team members who have left for the promise of remote work, and then the rules have changed. Ask Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon came up yesterday. Ask Jamie Dimon about that, or Elon Musk, what they think about remote work. I'm supportive of it, and it's working, and we're allowing it. But that's, if you'd asked me in February of 2020, if we'd have 1,000 people working from home, I would have said, why would we want to do that?
And a similar question, has the organization had to pivot in a particular place, and how have you dealt with pushback?
So I think all of us have got to have an expertise in pivoting. And your management team, and particularly your executive management team, better have an expertise in pivoting, because in every volatile economic time, you are going to pivot multiple times of not what you planned, but what you got. So let alone the pandemic year of 2020. And for my Californian brethren, pivoting during that time was a little worse than other states because of the restrictiveness of California. But this year, you got to think of how you've already pivoted. And if you're not pivoting effectively in a crazy interest rate environment that you've never lived through before, no one has seen the speed of interest rate changes, you can't keep to a plan when the world is changing around you, even if it's just the economical world. And so if you are not skilled in pivoting and how you move an entire organization to turn right, because that's what happened to you, and you're still going straight, it becomes, it could become suicide almost economically. So I think pivoting has to be an absolutely one of the top skills to even handle the fluctuation of time in the economy.
Todd, same question for you. You lead a large organization, a diverse workforce spread across the country. Wherever you had to pivot, how do you get everyone to buy into that pivot?
Yeah, that is, Sam's laughing in the front row if you can't see her. Champion change is in our core values, our 4 core values. And I got, when I got to co-op, I got to an organization that really hadn't changed very much in 20 years. It had grown, but it really was basically doing the same thing it was doing 20 years before. And when I entered the realm, I said, listen, PCI compliance was done by sort of a rubber stamp company. We didn't really think about SOC Type 1, SOC Type 2. We're going to be a technology company. We have to have the tightest and the highest level of PCI compliance. We have to be SOC 2 Type 2 across our entire enterprise, right? And so we started at that very point putting things into place to make that happen, and people started quitting right and left because we were upsetting their apple cart in a major way. And when you're trying to drive change like that, there are going to be people who resist. They're going to circle the wagons. And you've got to be willing to say we're willing to live without those people and go find those people who will say, just because we did it this way yesterday doesn't mean we have to do it that way today, right? And so we only have 4 key tenets in our company, and to think that one of them is champion change says a lot about what we're doing at Co-op. Now, that's actually hard on you guys too, because we're changing a lot for you. If you've been with us for 25 years, then you're seeing change, right? And driving that change. You want something better on the other side? You know, I'm asking you to be a little patient with us as we drive a lot of change into the core platforms that will allow us to make it better on the other side. And so we turned over, I turned over the entire executive team at Co-op, and that was hard because I really liked a lot of those people. But it was important to do what we needed to do to bring in the skill set and the talent. And I think that's one of the things that credit unions sometimes struggle with, is bringing in somebody from the outside who's seen different things in their careers. I would encourage you to do it regularly and often because it will help you drive that pivot. And with regard to COVID, we were already 20% work from home. Now we're 47% work from home. That was actually a fairly easy transition for us. And but I'm with you, Bill. I see Jamie and Elon's pathway. I think this is all cyclical, just like the economy tends to be cyclical. We're going to go way over the edge to where everybody works from home, and then we're going to realize, wait, we want to come everybody back to the office. And so I'm not totally out of commercial real estate as an opportunity at some point.
Before we conclude, do we have any questions in the audience, or I have a final question if we do have one?
Thank you. My question is for Todd. Todd, one of the things that we run across is working with you. So we're actually looking at you guys for credit cards, and we're very impressed. But one of the things that we're running across is just from an industry standpoint is some of our service partners, particularly our data processors, are not prepared for this pivoting. And so like we're ready to go and run and we run into this roadblock. Do you have any suggestions of how we can approach that with these business partners when, say, we're going to partner with you and you're ready to go and they're not?
Well, in this last 18 months, Bruce Trott, Bruce, wave your hand back there, who leads our product group, has started a new program. I think partially in, I don't know where the idea came from, but I'll give Joan credit for it. Joan in the back said, Co-op, you should use your power. You'll take the credit? You don't even know what I'm going to say. You should use your power. And so we're starting to organize groups of, I'm Correlation, I'm Alchemy, I'm Co-op, and going in a show of force, right? Because it's hard to mix core and a digital provider and a co-op client or a potential co-op client that we don't have 10, 12, 14, 18 of. And when you go by yourself, that's exactly how those providers want you to come. So they can say, well, sure, we'll do that. It'll be $50,000, or it'll be $80,000, or it'll be $170,000, whatever it is, right? And they get to do that to each individual one, right? We're trying to go as a unified front and say we've got 17 credit unions that total, $60 billion in assets, and we want this. So give us one price and do it for everybody, right? And so we're getting more organized on that every single time. And I would say there's some people who are like leaning hard into it, and there are others that are really resistant. And I won't name names up here, but if your core or your digital provider is not saying the word open a lot, right? We're open to partnerships. We're open to this. We don't want to put you in a tiny little box. Then you should really think about leaving. That's the world. Open banking is coming to the United States, whether we like it or not. It may not ever become law here, but because all the big banks across the world have had to live with it in Europe, it's going to be here, and we need to be more prepared for it. So that's the first answer I would come up with.
Aaron, you mentioned in terms of your member engagement and net promoter score, and I don't remember the name of the other, the tool that you use. Can you describe that a little bit more and what the advantage is?
Sure. So we don't use Net Promoter. So we use Gallup. Gallup has a financial well-being survey. And the questions are all around the members and example of questions. Do you believe your credit union helps build your financial health? Do you believe the credit union people you're working with are approachable? They'll ask satisfaction scores. They'll ask how convenient and easy is it to do business. So it's built around the things that are how people think about their money, how they believe they are standing, meaning, do I believe I'm financially healthy? They'll rate themselves in the process. So the survey is much more, I would only say intimate in the question that it's asking. And so you'll get verbatims back, right? That are much more intimate in what they're telling you. So I find it's, for us and our mission and our focus, much richer information for how we can focus and make it better, whether it's experiences, whether it's products and building. And we've built several products that are what we call our financial health suite of products. Whether it is re-educating some of our staff, it's built differently than NPS. So,
And I would just comment briefly, sorry, Frank, that we use Gallup as well. Very similar on the member engagement side. We do include Net Promoter just so we have a point of comparison and benchmarking against other organizations, not just credit unions, but on the member financial health and member engagement, very similar to what Patelco's doing. So.
No, it's okay. I was just going to ask Brandy if we had time for Bill. Oh. That's it. So are we good at time or? Right there? All right. I want to thank Bill, Aaron, and Todd, and all of you for joining us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.